And just being around like such great players only elevates your game so much more, right? You can work super hard to chase your dreams, and sometimes you reach those goals, but sometimes you work really hard and do everything right and you don't reach your goals. I just want to be a model for the fact that like it's about the journey, it's about the process, doing it because you love it, enjoying the process, and like that's going to get you further than anything else.
How does it feel to be back in Winnipeg?
Good. I love being home. Every time I'm home, like seeing friends and family, like I talk up Winnipeg all the time. And some of my Canadian teammates, they're like, oh, Winnipeg. I'm like, have you ever actually been to Winnipeg? And they haven't. So I'm like, that's the key. Don't talk shit about my city.
Most people do when they've not been here. That was my experience too. And then everybody comes here and it's pleasantly surprising. But so you grew up here. How would you say that growing up in Winnipeg helped you? We'll start as a basketball player. What was it like growing up as a basketball player in Winnipeg?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the basketball community has grown a lot since I was playing. Like there's so many more club teams. Obviously we have the Sea Bears. So it felt kind of like a very small, tight-knit community when I was younger and growing up. So, I mean, all the people now like that I grew up with playing provincial team with, like those are some of my, lifelong friends. And it's always good times when I connect with them again. Like that was our core group of like the women and the men, 15U, 17U, like those summers that we spent together.
So you were in Australia this past year, but you played all over the world professionally.
Yeah.
You've been a member of the national team. What's it like living so far away from home? Because your whole family's here in Winnipeg, right?
Yeah.
So what's it like when you're living away from there? What do you miss most, I guess, about the city? I'm sure your family's part of it, but like when you're sitting there kind of, say, homesick, for lack of a better term, like what is it about the city that you miss most? I
mean, I think we have the best food ever. Like the restaurants in Winnipeg, unbeatable. So I'm gonna have to say like a Fat Boy. Like when I want a good cheeseburger, you can't find it anywhere else. So like, especially in Europe, like sometimes you can find a good burger place. Like same within Australia, but like, yeah, like a good burger and poutine, like just like food that reminds me of home. And then obviously, yeah, like having meals with my family and having those big like family dinners.
Honey dill sauce.
Yeah.
Another one. I believe Imperial cookies was one that's a Winnipeg thing. It's weird how many things Winnipeg has. It's like distinctly Winnipeg. So it makes it easy to miss for sure. I'll never get around to all the recommendations that I've had for food in Winnipeg.
I know.
Any part of the city.
I still try. It's hard because like when I come home, I want to have my favorites.
Yeah.
But then I also want to try new spots that are popping up in the city. So it's like a hard balance. I'm like, well, I can't eat out every day. Like I got to actually focus on my nutrition as well. A little bit.
That's the downfall. Actually, we'll get to that too, because I'm sure that plays a big part in the lifestyle of a pro athlete. But when you look at, coming up through Winnipeg, do you remember what first drew you to basketball?
Yeah, I mean, everyone in my family played. Like I'm the youngest, so like my older sisters did play. My parents played in high school, and my dad used to coach, like at my elementary, junior high school. Yeah. So he was coaching like maybe like grade 9 boys, and I was 5 years old in the gym with him when he'd be having practice. Me and my sister, we'd be sitting there with our little snacks, and he'd be coaching with the guys, and we would literally just roll around on those little scooters, from gym class, those little plastic scooters. Yeah,
those little flat ones.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I didn't even really like. Sometimes I'd try to dribble with them, but I was just around the game. And then as I like grew up and got taller and taller, like by the time I got to grade 7, I didn't start playing basketball till I was 12, but I figured that like I should, at least try to follow like in their footsteps.
Do you know like relatively early on, like when you were 12, do you remember how tall you were?
5'11".
So you're like the tallest girl on the team at that point. When do you figure out though that basketball might be an avenue for you professionally? Like did that cross your mind early on, or was that something that came in like later on as you were going to university?
Probably like grade 9, honestly, is when I first thought about it. Like I also grew up watching like March Madness with my dad when I was younger. So those are kind of my earliest memories of basketball, is always watching that. So I knew I wanted to play, and I thought like, it'd like be a dream to play like NCAA basketball. But once I got to grade 9, I was like, no, like I want to go to college and I want to be a pro. And that's kind of when it's like, I took a couple years, I was really bad at basketball. It took a couple years of just a lot of development stuff. And then like, as I progressed through high school, like that was just like my mindset.
Did you have a player that, we'll start with this. Did you have a player that you modeled your game after? Or someone you looked up to?
Honestly, I'll go with Tim Duncan because like, the big fundamental.
Yeah.
So I don't think of myself as like a super flashy player. I just try to, I love to score. I do love to block shots as well, and like run the floor, but just to try to be really like fundamental with my skills. I spent a lot of time just like focusing on the basics. And I think that's really helped me to have that foundation throughout my career.
Aren't you like top 5 in the Pac-12 or something like that for blocks? Or
Yeah, I used to block a lot of shots in college, and it's kind of like slowed down a little bit. But yeah, that's all I wanted to do in college, was just block everything.
Yeah, is that a thing though? Like when you get to the professionals, is that one of the things you noticed first? Like one of the first things you noticed when you go up a level? Was it that the hardest part was adjusting defensively, or what was the hardest part? I guess jumping from Utah, because you went to the University of Utah, played there, and then you jump professional. So what was that? You go from having a stellar career in university. What's that switch like going to professional?
Yeah, right. Like you're a big fish in a small pond, and I felt that kind of like through every like level I've jumped through in my career. You know, you're in high school, you're the best player in high school. Okay, you go to college, and maybe you're not the best player on your team in college, and then you work to be, you know, maybe the best team player on your team in college, and then going overseas. Now you're with girls and women that are 18 to 40 years old.
Yeah.
So it's a huge pool, and like I think the physicality was the biggest jump from college to professional. So yeah, people are strong.
Yeah,
there's some strong women out there. So thankfully I consider myself pretty strong too. So yeah, but I still felt the jump and that difference.
Well, we're seeing more of it too, right? And I mean, you and I have talked about this before, that, you know, the women's game had a lot more spotlight outside of North America until recently. WNBA's really kind of exceeded there. So when you look at when you were growing up compared to, say, someone who's in high school now, like a female basketball player in high school now, how important is that to have that kind of exposure? Because did you, like, growing up, did you have a favorite player in the WNBA, or did you have a favorite NBA player?
Not really. Like I used to watch a lot of Big Ten basketball because we had the Big Ten channel.
Okay.
And that was on TV. I don't ever remember seeing WNBA on TV. I would watch, you know, like University of Manitoba, University of Winnipeg, like most of the University of Manitoba Bison games and stuff like that. And I played in the Junior Bisons program. So, you know, I looked up to those girls that were playing at that level. But yeah, I didn't like, social media wasn't a thing. Like, so how did I have access to all these players? I didn't, right? So there wasn't anybody like, oh my God, it'd be so amazing. I could meet this player and like know the path they took. So I think it's amazing now that, you know, everybody just seems so accessible to like get information from, to learn from, to model their game after. So yeah, I didn't have that when I was in high school. To me, it was like, the University of Manitoba, you know, that CISU sports level, to me was like, oh my God, these girls are amazing.
Yeah, well, it's the highest level for a lot of people to watch here, right? Even until the Sea Bears came here, that was the highest level. Did you ever, I mean, you're a born and bred, proud Winnipegger. Did you give any thought at all of maybe going to one of those two schools, or was it, I got offers from the States and I got to take it?
I did consider it for a minute.
Yeah.
You know, like there was, you know, I talked to some other coaches across Canada, and I was like, well, if I'm going to stay in Canada, I'll stay at home. Like I'll go to the U of M. My sister played there. A lot of my best friends played there. But yeah, I could honestly almost like envision my life, how it would be like if I would have stayed at the U of M. But I just wanted to push myself at the highest level and like do something that would help me grow the most. And I feel like going away to school, having that experience, living away from home, being in like an unfamiliar situation just like helped me grow as a person as well as a basketball player. So I couldn't pass it up.
So let's start there. You break away from everything, you go to Utah. How do you think that influenced you? Like, in many aspects, like your personality, your character, your sense of style, because I'm sure you go there, everything's a little bit different. Like, what did you take from the Utah experience that you carried on into your adulthood?
Just like breaking out of my shell, honestly. Like I was very shy, like timid kind of person when I was in junior high for sure. And I met all of my best friends through basketball. And I had my little bubble even in high school, but having to move away and live by yourself, like it just forced me to grow up and be okay and be more confident in myself and talking to people and making new friends. And it is a little bit easier when you're going away to school because it's like, okay, here are your teammates, these are your friends. You have those people built in, but just even breaking out from that and like talking to other classmates and just doing things on your own, like by yourself.
Yeah.
So that was probably the biggest thing in like my personality that helped me develop, was just like not being super shy or awkward and just like kind of a fake it till you make it approach.
So when you look at your growing up in Winnipeg playing basketball, what was the biggest challenge playing or in Winnipeg? Was there anything that was more challenging that kind of maybe was harder to get through that obstacle to get to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of work like by myself.
Yeah.
You know, like I knew kind of what I needed to do. And I personally felt that like I didn't need to go away to any type of prep school. Like I could reach my goals still being here. I had like, you know, some tryouts and opportunities with the national team when I was in high school. So I just took, you know, that kind of those experiences and seeing who I was playing up against. And I knew kind of the standard I needed to hold myself at. But it is hard when it was like I was just in a gym in the morning by myself working on my shooting. So like I played against, you know, a solid class of players in my graduating year, but it's not the same as playing against the top players in Canada when you're in a training camp. So just like holding yourself to like a really high standard, like when you're by yourself.
So you talked about earlier, you know, breaking out of your shell and having to meet new people. Now you're in a situation, you're meeting new people every season, right? Because you're going from country to country and, you know, taking on different things. Who consists of your circle? Like when you look at like your inner support system, like who are the key members of your circle that, you know, keep you grounded, keep you motivated, you know, able to lift you up when you're down, even though they might not be around?
Yeah, I mean, I have a fantastic circle, and sometimes I kind of feel like I add like a person or two like every year in kind of every country I go to, which I think is super cool. Like my family, those are my best friends, my two sisters, my parents, you know, like stepdad, stepmom. My niece is 16 years old. We're super close. So I don't know a lot of people that have like such a close relationship with their family like I do. So I'm very, very thankful for that. And then, you know, I have like best friends from all over, which I'm so thankful for. And I think everybody can kind of serve a different purpose in your life. Like I have one of my best friends here in Winnipeg. Like if I need a laugh, I need to just like have fun. Like she's there. She's my girl. I'm going to call for that. I have my best friend from college in Utah. I have one of my best friends like in the world in Greece, who I met a couple years ago when I was playing there. And that's like my soul sister, like anything I need. Like, and it's kind of crazy because like she's across the world. English is not her first language, but we're just like so connected, and anything like deep, anything mental health related, like I know I'm going to be there for her and she's going to be there for me. And I mean, my teammates in Australia this past season too, like I love them and like I miss them. And we just had we had such a good season there. So it's like, it's crazy. I just keep, you know, getting more people as I travel different places.
What draws you to these people though? Like, you know, when you go into a gym every time, it's a whole bunch of new players. Like, do you know kind of early on, is it like, and I like that girl's shoe game, or I like that girl seems funny, or like what is it that draws you to people when you're meeting new people out there?
I think it is definitely kind of like the quirky, outgoing people. And my teammates are usually shocked to find out that like I used to be shy myself. They're like, oh my God, like you're so outgoing. But I'm like, well, I'm in another country. I want to make the most of it. So I try to put myself out there. And then, I kind of pick up like some of my other teammates, the ones that are cracking jokes, the ones who like don't take themselves too seriously on the court and have fun with it. Those are kind of the people that I usually gravitate towards.
And now you're a media mogul. Post-game show host.
Yeah.
We host a post-game show together for the Sea Bears. But yeah, like you break out of your shell. You know, like now you're, you know, media requests, especially when you're in the national team, right? I'm sure anytime something's coming up with the national team, the local outlets are calling. I'm sure outlets that you've played at before are like, you know, calling and trying to get your comment and stuff like that. How do you handle that? I mean, was that a hard thing to get used to, or is that just, it comes at you so fast with, you know, media availabilities and having to be in front of a camera or in front of a microphone all the time that you just kind of get thrown into the fire and you're good with it?
Yeah, I think it like comes back to just like the self-confidence. And we did do honestly a lot of media training in college and university and college athletics, and like everybody did it. Everybody like took a class. It was kind of like an intro to college, and just tried to help people on how to prepare themselves to be in front of a camera. And I mean, sometimes it's a little like boring when you're in front of a camera because it's the same questions over and over again. So I try to find ways to like spice it up, or just, you know, say something different. It's always like, of course, you want to give the credit to your teammates. You want to like be humble, be, you know, modest, but
really, you're like, it was all me. I wasn't out there. We weren't going to win that game. That championship only needs my name on it, but, you know, we'll give my team some credit.
No. But, like, you know, you're asking players stuff at the end of the games. Like, from a player perspective, like, sometimes I'm like, really? Like, how did the game go? It was good. Like, what do you want me to say here? Like, they gotta keep it fresh with some of the questions I ask sometimes. So that's a challenge. That's a challenge to you to try to like.
Right now, it's like,
you need to ask something. Really like just like a head scratcher, something that's really going to get a guy thinking.
All right, well, let's consider this our halftime conversation. I've got a new strategy coming out, and I'm going to come out a lot stronger in the second half. What's the most challenging part about a professional basketball player's lifestyle?
I mean, for me, like being an overseas athlete, yeah, it's like the being away from home for so long, like 8 months at a time. I haven't been able to go home for Christmas for the last 3 years. And that just kind of like wears at you sometimes, especially when you're around like local athletes in another country and they get to see their family, they get to see their friends, they have those relationships. And I've been, very blessed to have people that basically like adopt me into their family. Last Christmas I spent it with my teammates. We had an orphan dinner of everyone who didn't get to go home, and my best friend from Greece, like her family would have me over every Christmas. So you try to find your people, but like it does suck when you're across the world and something happens, and sometimes that's like what stresses me out the most is like I don't want to be away from home if something does happen and I like can't be there for my family or friends.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Like I moved around a little bit too. Those orphan dinners, we had the same thing for Christmas.
Yeah.
Whatever reporters couldn't go home, we'd make a little something on Christmas Eve and do something that way. But the in terms of the going back to the lifestyle part of being a pro athlete, I mean, you meet so many people. You're only in their lives or they're in yours for a short period of time. I mean, how difficult is it? Or how important is it to try and maintain those? Like, do you kind of go into it knowing like we're going to have to make the most of this year, but I might never see this person again? I mean, it's got to be tough when you're just like your circle, you get close to people and then you might even be playing against them a year later.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I mean, that's why I love the aspect of social media. Like, I don't think I could be playing pro like 20 years ago, 15 years ago when, you had to like literally hop on a payphone to call your family. Like I wouldn't survive. So yeah, like my family's far away. I can still FaceTime them. I can still check in with all of my friends from around the world and try to, make more of an effort of like checking in with people at different times, because you can see what they're posting on social media, but to actually like check up on somebody and like see how they're really doing is a lot different. It's not just like replying to a story. So yeah, I do try to make the most of like every season I'm in, but it's hard. It's like the more places you live, it's like everywhere feels like home, but then like nowhere feels like home because you're kind of like split up in all these different places.
So the best part of that then, like obviously aside from actually playing the game, what's the best part about your lifestyle right now that when you retire and move into the next phase of your life that you're really going to miss?
Yeah, I think it will be the people.
Yeah.
Like to me, it's always the people. And like, I think the travel part like comes second and all the new experiences, but just like how many different people from different walks of life that you meet along the way. And it just makes you realize like kind of how small the world is as well, because they're across the world, they're in Greece or Australia, but they're still doing the same thing. Like you wake up in the morning and everyone else is, jumping in their cars, going to work, trying to make a living for themselves, like, trying to find love, start a family and have a good life. So just kind of like, it makes the world feel a little smaller. Like we're all in it together. We're all kind of doing the same thing.
I also feel like the basketball community is probably even smaller, globally speaking, right?
Yeah.
Like you're seeing a lot of the same players, things like that. You took up surfing, was it last year in Australia? Yeah. Mm-hmm. What are some other cool experiences that you kind of got through basketball that, aren't basketball related?
Right. Yeah. Surfing, I feel like was my most exciting one, but definitely more like cooking and trying to like find interesting things to do like outside of basketball. So like yoga is a big one I like to do in my free time, but just, I think it was COVID when I was in the Czech Republic, me and my American teammate, we had themed dinners every week. Okay. And we went around the world because we couldn't leave the apartment. So we had a Marvel movie marathon, and one week it was, we went to Italy and we made, spaghetti. One week we went to Greece, we made souvlaki, and like, we had an American night where we had like cheeseburgers.
That's
like
fun.
So just trying to like mix things up, and it can get tiring, obviously, like when you're playing a sport, that's your job, but like you really have to force yourself to kind of like get out and still do things and experience things. And like for me, like hopping around to different restaurants or cooking at home, trying out new cafes, like that's what I love most about living in different places.
How do you get away from the game? Like you said, yoga is one of the things that you enjoy, and how important is it for you to disconnect, at least momentarily, to get away from like the pressure and just the grind of a season, even an off season for that matter?
Yeah, it's super, super important to me. I know some people are like, they want to be in the gym every day. They feel good when they're shooting every day. I'm not one of those people. And I like to take a break from basketball and like not even touch a ball, honestly, for like at least a month after season. I'll still run, I'll still lift, but I just want like a mental reset. I want to like miss the game almost, so that when I come back to it, I'm like very eager to start again, because I am doing it for 8 months straight. And it's hard because like you get to the end of the season, you're tired, you're a little bit burnt out, and then like 2 weeks later, you're like, dang, I miss it already. Yeah. So within a season, yeah, it's super important to just like completely forget about it. So with surfing, that was great. With yoga, like on off days, like I don't even want to think about basketball. I'm going to go to a cafe. I'm going to like journal. I'm going to write down my goals. I'm going to, you know, pretend like I'm doing work on my computer and just like pretend like I'm a regular person.
Are you a coffee snob?
I just started drinking coffee about 2 years ago when I was living in Greece.
Okay.
So I guess I'm a snob for Greek coffee because they have the best like iced coffee I've ever had, and nowhere comes close. So it makes me really sad.
Interesting. All right. So
Yeah.
next time I'm in Greece, which will be the first time, I will get iced coffee. So you take on those demands, and then you throw in national team. You've been lucky enough to represent the country. Again, we'll start with that because it's a better segue. The challenge is when you're, you know, because it's a lot of it's in the summer, so you're getting away from the game, and then you're going to like the cream of the crop internationally. Again, a whole new team. I'm sure there's some girls that you know from, you know, that have been on the team for a while. But how difficult is that when you almost have to reset, even mid-season sometimes, right? Because they're calling for an Olympic qualifier. I mean, you're going to answer the call, right? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's not hard to answer that call usually for me because that's like the best basketball environment that I've ever been in terms of, you know, every other professional experience I've had, college, WNBA training camp, like Canada basketball is just like a completely different level. And the dedication that everybody has, the energy that everybody has, like the focus that people have in practice, like, and just being around like such great players only elevates your game so much more, right? Like when you're playing around other great players, you feel like you're great because they're giving you the best assists. Like everybody knows exactly where they're going to be. They're going to help correct each other like on the court. So it's absolutely my favorite basketball environment to be in by far. So when I get that call, yes, I obviously always want to go back. When it is in the summer, yeah, like kind of changes my off season and kind of like how I'm going to train for it. So it does feel sometimes like a little bit more year round, but yeah, like I said, it's just my favorite basketball to play.
I mean, so I'll avoid the dumb question of, do you feel proud to play for Team Canada? But do you feel an added sense of maybe responsibility as, you know, oftentimes you're the lone Winnipegger, lone Manitoban on the team, right? I mean, do you feel an added sense of pride or responsibility as, you know, as the Winnipegger wearing the red and white?
Yeah, like I do feel like a sense of pride in it for sure, obviously, to represent your country. And I just like love Canada in general as a country. I think we're so fortunate here, and all of the other countries I've lived in make me realize like how privileged and how blessed we are to be from this country. Obviously we have our faults, but yeah, very proud to play for Canada. And I do feel a sense of like responsibility. Like I want to be a good representation of Manitoba for like the next generation, for young girls. Yeah, I think it's important to, you know, set a good example, but also just like be authentically myself.
Okay, before we get into the fun stuff, one more semi-serious question. But you look at your career so far, everything that you've achieved, everything that you've done, what dreams are left for you that you want to achieve before you're ready to call it a career?
Yeah, I mean, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring, but my last kind of like big goal is obviously to be an Olympian. And that's not a dream that I ever thought was possible. It's not something I dreamed of from a little kid. It's not something I dreamt of as a kid. It's not something that even really like crossed my mind until maybe like 2016. And that was like, I was in college then, and I spent some time training with the senior team like that summer before they went to the Olympics. And then the WNBA girls came back and, you know, I got kicked out. But yeah, like.
But like, how does that affect you too? Like, you know, you get into that, like, you know, you're, it's so narrow, right? Like it's such a, you know, the funnel is so small for the players that get through, because only like a dozen that play for the team, and you get so close, and then, you know, someone else comes in and it's like, well, thanks for your service, but we're moving on.
Really,
I mean, how do you handle that?
It's really, really hard. I don't know. If you know, can you let me know?
Sure thing. As soon as I get cut from Team Canada.
It's an evolving process of always like trying to keep perspective and like have gratitude for where you're at and all that, you know, like I feel like I have accomplished or done or experienced. And, you know, sometimes people are like, oh, you know, if it's not meant for you, like something greater's on the way. Like if it's in God's plan, that's what it'll be. And I'm like, you know, I do agree with that, but like what greater thing could be on the way? This is the pinnacle, like this is the top, and I really, really want to make it. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but I don't want to define my career on like, I guess, things I did or did not achieve. I'm hoping to just think about it as like more experiences I've had, not the championships. It's going to come back to the people I've met and like places I've traveled and the things I've seen. So I try to keep that in perspective. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said it's not extremely difficult when you feel like you're super close to a goal and it's what you've been working for the last 8 years.
Well, you always hear, right? The success stories, like, you know, that's always, I got there, you can do it. And, you know, everything's so motivating when you're listening to someone that just accomplished their dreams. But a lot of dreams out there, and the higher you dream, the harder it is to get there. And I like your approach in terms of taking that, being in the present and taking in all the extra stuff, not just being so focused in on the game to the point where you're missing out the opportunities that it's brought to you.
Yeah, and like focusing on any type of outcome or being stressed about what's going to happen has never made me play well. When I play loose, when I have fun, like that's when I'm going to be at my best. And yeah, I guess we'll see what happens, but stay tuned.
So this year in Australia, I saw the stories, Game Day Fits.
Yes.
The walk-in. See that you're wearing a Toon Squad shirt. That's a stellar shirt. Let's start with that. How much does that become part of your routine? Picking out the outfit. Like, how important is that part of the day leading up to game day for you?
Yeah, it's important. It was my first time doing it, and we as a team decided that we wanted to do it. So, everyone on staff was on board with it, and they asked us before the season if it was something we wanted to do, and we were like all 100% like, yes, we do. And yeah, me and my roommate, like we were excited about it. We did some shopping. We tried to organize things, I feel like, before the first couple games. And then once you get in season and things are crazy, then it's kind of like the morning of the game. You're like, oh, dang, like, okay, now I got to pick an outfit. But we had a routine, go to shoot around. We'd always go out to brunch together. And then, I'd be able to sleep for a couple hours and wake up and kind of figure out what I wanted to wear. And I think it's good sometimes to decide like the day of to see kind of like what your vibe is for that game.
Do you, in this time that this has become part of your routine, have you figured out the elements? Like, is there a certain formula that Emily Potter follows that's like, this is my style, this is how I pull it off? Like, what are those elements? If there are any.
Right. I don't know if there is. Like, I've been trying to think of like what my style kind of is. And it's really like a mismatch of, I feel like, a ton of different things. Like, obviously I'm in athletic clothes 95% of the time, but I do try to make a point of like, if I'm going out somewhere, like put on something that's going to make me feel good and make me feel confident. So I can, live that regular person life, like my uniform, my everyday wear for work is a pair of basketball shorts and a reversible. So yeah, I do try to put a little bit of effort into what I'm wearing, and it depends. Like maybe it's going to be a little bit more like sportier, like streetwear style with just like sneakers and like a graphic t-shirt. And then sometimes, like I love skirts. I love dresses. I love being able to like look cute as well. Maybe even a little preppy sometimes, but I'm still in the phase, I feel like, of like trying out so many things because I don't spend that much time in all of these, like stylish outfits.
So perfect segue to that. How much does the game or the style of the game play into your everyday style? Like you said, like obviously you're wearing shorts and t-shirts for practice and that, but like when you're going out just casual Emily, like today you're wearing the dunks, right? You've got the basketball t-shirt. How much of that is in your everyday where basketball has an influence on, just your overall general style? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I'm always like looking at like what latest shoes are coming out, like I like Jordans, I like Dunks, anything that's like super comfy. And I have a ton of different basketball shirts. So even if I'm not playing basketball, I can still, wear a Toon Squad shirt. Favorite movie ever is Space Jam. So it's just perfect. I have, some like Raptors gear. And if I'm overseas, I want to rep that a little bit. For one of our tunnel fits this year, I wore like a Sea Bears shirt, and I'm like, I just want
Reppin' local.
Exactly. I want to rep local, no matter where I am in the world, and maybe someone will like point out and be like, hey, that's a cool shirt, like where's that from? And it can spark up a conversation.
Do you have a favorite shoe?
Maybe like basketball or casual.
Let's go both. Let's start basketball, then casual.
Basketball. Okay, it's hard. I do like Kyrie's.
Is that for practicality or for style?
Like it has to be comfy. All the shoes I wear have to be super comfy. Okay. I love Kobe's, but I do not think they are the most comfortable for my foot. I love, Kyrie's, KD's. I really like the Paul George shoes as well.
Yeah, they are nice, eh?
And I have my first pair of LeBrons recently that I also liked more than I want to admit. But I like it a lot.
Never got into the LeBrons. Although I feel like the LeBron shoes, there are like throughout the line, there are a couple that I really like. but like never as consistent as like Jordan. I feel like every year Jordan came out, it was like, oh, and then even if you didn't like the initial Jordan, then there would be a colorway that would come out, and then you're like, I want that colorway. Like I remember like my first dunks I ever had kind of looked like Fruity Pebbles. Like it was like red and a bright blue and a yellow and an orange, and I was like, that was like the shoe. I was like, and then I love dunks from there on in. Yeah. And then Jordans are the same thing. I mean, I think every basketball player, basketball fan loves a Jordan. I think that just kind of comes with the way.
Facts. There's no shoe that's ever gonna like, I think, come close to that, like longevity and legacy. But the LeBrons, like, some of them are literally like giant bricks, the older ones. Totally, so I only like low tops, like maybe mids, like some of the Paul Georges I have, like that are super colorful, kind of like mid-rise ones. But some of the LeBrons are literal bricks. So I like to stay towards more low tops.
Though Kyrie had a bit of a run where I was like,
I do have some like
kind of had that Jordan feel to it, like in terms of like classic, styles that are going to like stand the test of time.
RIP to that.
Do you have an era of basketball that you like, the style that you like? Like, is it like, the 2010s, maybe it's now, is it the 90s, 2000s, 80s, or any like time you look back at, it's like, man, like, if I can be in any era just for like the style that it brings, it would be that one.
I'm gonna have to say now. It's definitely not gonna be like early 2000s or 2010s. There were some weird things that people were wearing just in general, like in basketball and just like regular fashion. The baggy is not for me. I kind of got a tiny piece of that when I started college. Like the shorts were still like just above the knee. Yeah. And as I progressed through my college career, they got like an inch shorter every year. And now I'm like full like short shorts type of gang. So
yeah, bring back the baggy, man. It's all about the baggy.
I remember my dad used to just talk to me about like playing, like in the 80s. He's like, yeah, we wore short shorts and I wore like Chucks to play basketball in. Yeah. To play basketball. And I'm like, well, maybe that's why you tore your ACL. Just kidding. Joke's on me. I also tore mine. But yeah, just like their short shorts were too short. I hope we don't ever go back to that, but it's definitely like, it just goes in cycles.
Kind of feels like we're getting close though. Like and it's tight. That's the other thing too. Like I remember when I was playing, like everything was like loose fit. Yeah. Right. Like that was the style. And then, everything got really tight. And I was like, cause the style I liked the least, like from a playing perspective, was remember when the NBA had those t-shirt jerseys?
Yeah, super ugly.
I
Some teams
those.
Overseas had those too. Like it's the weirdest thing to me.
And even just like, I don't know, like you kind of want your
freedom of movement and your shoulder to shoot.
I don't know, man. I didn't.
They were trying some things out. It didn't work.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all. Do you have an inspiration for your style? Like when you were looking at these, because the WNBA's got a lot of stylish people coming through there too, and then there's they have their runway fits now. Yeah. So is there anybody that you look at there that's like, man, I'm going to take a page out of her book?
I don't know if I would take it. Like, I don't know if I have anyone I model my style after. It's just kind of like, for me personally, like it needs to be comfy. Number one, it has to be comfy. I'm not wearing it if I'm not comfortable. Like maybe sometimes for a tunnel fit, because I'm literally wearing it for like 20 minutes and then I'm taking it off and I'm literally getting warmed up for the game. But yeah, it needs to be comfy and it needs to be something that like I'm going to feel confident in, because like it could look great on somebody else doing like a walk-in in the WNBA. But if I am unsure about it on myself, like the pictures aren't going to come out well because you're going to see that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Did you ever have a teammate that came in and just like went against the grain and said, screw it, I'm coming in my team wear, like just my jog? Yeah.
Yes, Ari McDonald. Yeah, this past year with the Lynx. Yeah, so now she's playing for the Sparks, and I have to check and see if she's put on any tunnel fits for this season too, because I don't know if she's made any of their like tunnel fit pictures, but she dressed up for our Christmas game, but otherwise she would just sneak in and no photos. But
at this point, that's kind of the style. I mean, you're going to stick out from everybody else if you're wearing the team gear.
Yeah, you're being original. Yeah.
On that note, I'll go national teams. I feel like when you get there, they have to give you a bunch of stuff, right? Yeah. I'm sure you get a lot of free stuff along your travels. Is that the best day where you just come in where it's kind of like Christmas, where like, here's shoes and shirts and shorts and jackets and sweaters and have at her? I feel like that'd be like, I'd play basketball for that if I had the talent.
Yeah, we just got an email actually about this next camp coming up, and like there's a new batch of Nike gear coming in, and we've had the same like kind of like tracksuit and hoodies for a few years. So like I have a couple sets of literally the same hoodie and the same tracksuit. So like I've given stuff away, but I guess there's a whole new batch, and it's like literally Christmas. Like I couldn't even tell you, the list is so long of all the things we're about to get, and I'm like, well, even if it doesn't go well, I'm walking away with some with some nice stuff here.
I might throw that into my game day fit, actually. Yeah, like, look at that.
Right? Yeah, I don't know if I did a Canada basketball game fit. I'll have to do it next season. Add it to my list.
That'd be good. So I guess we'll end on this. When you look at everything that you've done throughout your career and everything that you've accomplished, I mean, when you tie it all back to here, I mean, how proud does it make you knowing that you came out of Winnipeg and managed to accomplish everything that you did? And how do you hope that inspires younger people, male or female?
Yeah, I love it. I take a lot of pride in that. That not a lot of people know where I'm from when I go other places, and I get to point it out to them and I get to tell them about it. I get to highlight the great things, about our city. And yeah, I just you can work super hard to chase your dreams, and sometimes you reach those goals, but sometimes you work really hard and do everything right and you don't reach your goals. So I just want to be a model for the fact that it's about the journey. It's about the process. I don't want to get too caught up sometimes on things I've accomplished, because I know I am I'm my own person. I'm unique. I'm 6'5". Not every, high school basketball player here that's a female can relate to that. Mm-hmm. But I still want to be able to give back to the basketball community, be a good representation, help Basketball Manitoba any way I can. And just kind of instill not so much an outcome based perspective, but doing it because you love it, enjoying the process, and that's going to get you further than anything else.
Nice. I'm inspired. I'm going to see you. I'm coming out of retirement. I will meet you at LA 28. I'll be in my 40s. I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna break so many records, and we'll see you there. So
in what sport?
Well, we'll try basketball. I mean, I am 6'3" I mean, I feel like that's doable for
unless
a small
you develop Steph Curry's shooting ability, tomorrow.
Maybe I have it. You don't know. I've been hiding it this whole time. True. Yeah. Lacrosse is there. Maybe I'll do it in lacrosse.
It's coming back for 2028?
Yeah, for the first time since 1908 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, shout out to the US for that, putting that in there.
Yeah, well, I was pumped. It's different, not the game I played in university. It's sixes or whatever, but I'm sure if I try real hard.
Breakdancing?
Is that a sport yet?
Breaking is in this 2024
I can break.
Olympics.
I don't know if I can dance, but hey, I'll bring the break into breakdance. Emily, this has been awesome. Thanks for coming into Beyond the Hype.
Thanks, Joey.
I can't tell where I'm stepping.
You look like a cartoon character.
Not practical, but stylish.
Looking fresh comes with a price, baby.
I bet they not like me. You probably thought it wouldn't be out to forget me. It's cause they not like me. I bet they not like, yeah. Yeah, they not like. I'm running shoulders with some Joseph, shaking hands with grace. I'm feeling like Vinny Chase. Every time I nigga spot him with my entourage. Check out the crib, I got a million pocket lot. This is for music, but I'm still moving packs. It's really deeper than rap. Save me and Felix got it tatted on my neck.